Hello and welcome to another episode of the Learning Curve podcast. I'm your host Brithik,
And I'm Arvind.
and today we are going to talk about TypeScript and beginning with TypeScript. So, what are our impressions? We recently started using TypeScript, and Arvind, what are your first impressions? What is something that you found super helpful from the get go?
So initially it was a little hard to uh, type everything, type have types for
Defining all your types.
defining all your types because it felt like an overhead. You know that an object will contain certain keys, but you have to tell that to the compiler or tell that to your code. So that was time taking in the beginning because I didn't know. I had to figure out a lot of stuff. I was googling a lot of stuff. Uh, but eventually that became second nature, where if I have an object, I start with writing the types for it. So and it helps in things like IntelliSense, which would tell you, if suppose if there is a variable which can be an array or a single object, then it will tell you that you have missed handling the case where it is a single object. So it is a developer's friend.
Totally. And from what I saw using TypeScript, I really felt that it was something which comes and helps me around when I make a mistake. It stops me from making mistakes in the beginning itself. And whatever you do, it suggests you things like refactoring. Hey, why don't you convert this to a named function? If you have an arrow function or something sometimes. So, depending on the use case, it suggests improvement. There are things in the TypeScript config which you can turn off if you think TypeScript is getting too annoying, like, oh, do the right thing always. Sometimes we don't want to do the right thing. So,
And you can use any sometimes.
yeah, as I was using, you can use just any.
JavaScript is basically cool with anything, but with
Yes.
TypeScript you get the security of not messing up with the type of the variable.
JavaScript is actually pretty cool in that sense where you can add two strings and it will add them.
It is
does-
cooler than it is necessary because
Yeah.
that is the cause of a lot of bugs. That is
Totally.
the cause for a lot of bugs. Yeah. And one more good thing with TypeScript is that when you're using external libraries, and if that library is well typed, then you generally don't have to uh, look up the docs that much, because when you're writing code you write page dot and you get all the functions. And sometimes if there is good documentation in the code itself, then the IntelliSense window tells you that, gives you the description of that function. So that thing is a lot helpful. You know what the function takes and the function returns even before or without looking at the documentation. So
think
it helps you write
TypeScript-
code faster.
I think TypeScript, like, it definitely helps us write code faster. Plus, it is amazing for when you're getting back to your projects after some time and you don't know what you did previously. But now with TypeScript, whenever you write something, it tells you, okay, this is meant for this. This function takes these parameters. So I think it really helps for like working in teams. Like you in your work day, like you work in a team. Is TypeScript starting to help you there or with other people's code?
Yeah, it definitely is, because we have started implementing TypeScript across all the projects like recently 2-3 months ago. And when I look at a new project, it definitely helps to know what a object is or what a function takes and returns without even going to that function, to the place where that function is defined. So it is actually helping us a lot in uh, doing projects. And we have this case where we share types, in the sense we use the same types for backend and the front end. So backend generally sends the data, which is which means it's an object of a certain shape, and I directly get that type in the front end so that I don't have to define it again. So this is also a good way to have consistent backend and the UI representing that backend.
Can you override types? Say if a library has defined certain types, can you overwrite it when you're using it in your code, or no? Is that not an option?
Override, you could
Like say
extend the
someone is
type.
too strict with a type in their library, but for whatever reason you want to manipulate the types. And
You
want
can create a new type by extending the existing type.
Okay.
There is this concept of
Interfaces.
interfaces and classes where you could extend things,
Hmm.
extend the types of a few things.
Have you tried interfaces in TypeScript yet?
Yeah, interface is it's like type, but the advantage you get with interface is that it is extendable.
Okay.
You can mix and match interfaces.
Mm-hmm. What do you mean by extendable? Like, in what sense do you extend it?
You can add up extra keys to an object or extra
Ah.
functions to an interface.
So you
It's
can
like
use
that.
you can add superpowers to an existing thing, basically.
Something like
Whatever
that.
you need. Okay. Cool. Nice. So what would you recommend other developers check out TypeScript and
Yeah.
why? What would be the one reason why you would recommend people to use TypeScript?
It helps you write code faster. You'd think that uh, it uh, it is an extra overhead, but when you take the case of writing code, coming back to your code or writing the code in the long run, TypeScript definitely helps you to write code faster, and it suggests things. One thing that happened with me recently is that I had an object of a certain shape, but I had to change a variables or change a key in that object. So if I had not had TypeScript, then I would obviously forget to change it at a few places. But what TypeScript does, it complains if your key doesn't match or you use an incorrect key or a variable. It will tell you even before you run your application.
And I think that's the best part, where you don't break your code. TypeScript doesn't let you compile to JavaScript when you're doing something wrong. So I think that is one of the best things about TypeScript. So let's talk about how to get started. So you install TypeScript with npm, however the documentation says, and I think after that you have to create a source folder and a destination folder, and the source folder has your TS files and JavaScript has JS. So whenever you make a change, it goes to the destination. So as simple. So it's really simple. It's like makes me remind of SAS. It was SAS, right?
Yeah.
SAS CSS,
CSS,
thing. Yeah.
it's preprocessor.
Preprocessor. It feels like it is the preprocessor for JavaScript.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So what I'd suggest is if you have an existing project, then look for ways where you could use TypeScript in that project, because it's very simple. If you generally projects have this Webpack configuration, so if you add one single plugin, then you can write both JavaScript and TypeScript files, and it would work good. So incrementally add TypeScript to your project and start defining the types.
So basically, I could also have a JavaScript file in my source folder, and the destination still has the same JavaScript file.
Yeah, you could even have a few JavaScript files, import those functions into your TypeScript thing. Everything would work the same way.
So it plays really well with JavaScript because it is JavaScript.
It is JavaScript with more lock-in.
And if you want to use it, you can. If you don't want to use it, you can just have JS or use something bad like any. So I think it's very good to get started. I like frameworks and tools where you don't have to do a lot to get started. You can just get started from the get-go, and then slowly as you learn things, you refactor your code accordingly.
You would find yourself Googling a lot of things, but as the time goes, you get used to, you'll not have to Google anymore. You know what to do.
And I think TypeScript is here to stay. It is one of the fastest growing frameworks or tools or languages. I don't know what to say it is exactly. It's everything. So as someone who's using TypeScript for the first time, I think I have a very good developer experience for now. And I'm glad that almost all frameworks support using TypeScript.
It's just because a lot of tools support, because how TypeScript runs is basically it converts back to JavaScript and then executes.
If someone needs JavaScript, TypeScript gives them JavaScript. Like, here, take it.
What is the most used application that is built on TypeScript?
Most apps frameworks are built using TypeScript, but I don't know.
VS Code.
VS Code is built on TypeScript. Okay, awesome. I remember when I read about Angular, when they were moving from Angular 2 or they moved to Angular 2, all the Angular, the framework was built using TypeScript.
Yeah.
And it was cool because Angular is a Google product, TypeScript is a Microsoft product, and how people still use tools which are of a rival company. And developers, I think we don't really care what company a tool comes from as long as it is useful and is open source. So I think that is in itself more than enough for us. Guys, do check out TypeScript and use it. It's easy to start with, and have fun with it.
Bye guys, see you
Bye.
next
See you
time.
next time.